Okay, we'll start. नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। इतिपिसो भगवारहं सम्मा संबुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरुषदम सारथि सत्ता देव मनुष्याणां बुद्धो भगवाति। नमो तस्स सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। ये च बुद्धा अतीता च ये च बुद्धा अनागता पच्चुपन्ना च ये बुद्धा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं अन्यं बुद्धो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमंगेन वन्देऽहं पादपंसो वरोत्तमं। बुद्धेयो कलितो दोषो बुद्धो कमतु तं मम। बुद्धं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। स्वाकातो भगवता धम्मो संदिटिको अकालिको एहिपस्सिको अपनायको पश्चत्तं वेदितव्यो विन्नुहीति। नमो तस्य नियानिकस्य धम्मस्सा। ये च धम्मा अतीता च ये च धम्मा अनागता पच्चुपन्ना च ये धम्मा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं अन्यं धम्मो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं धम्मं च त्रिविधुत्तमम्। धम्मेयो कलितो दोषो धम्मो कमतु तं मम। धम्मं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो। यदिदं चत्तारि पुरुषयुगानि अट्टपुरुषपुद्गल एषा भगवतो सावक संगो। आहुनेयो बाहुनेयो दक्षिणेयो अंजलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यकेतं लोकस्याति। नमो तस्स अट्ट आर्य पुद्गला महासंगसा। ये च संगा अतीता च ये च संगा अनागता पच्चुपन्ना च ये संगा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा। नत्ति मे शरणं अन्यं संगो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम्। उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं संगं च त्रिविधुत्तमम्। संज्ञेयो कलितो दोषो संगो कमतु तं मम। संगं यावनिब्बानपर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि। विपत्ति पटिवाहाय सब्ब संपत्ति सिद्धिया सब्ब दुःखं विनाशाय सब्ब भयं विनाशाय सब्ब रोगं विनाशाय भवे दीर्घायुकदायक सब्ब लोकं हितत्ताय परित्तं तं वदामहे। समन्ता चक्रवालेषु अत्र गच्छन्तु देवता सद्धम्मं मुनिराजस्सा सुनन्तु सग्गमोक्तदं। धम्मश्रवण कालो अयं बदन्ता धम्मश्रवण कालो अयं बदन्ता परितश्रवण कालो अयं बदन्ता। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा। एवं मे सुतं एकं समयं भगवा सावधियं विहरति जेतवने अनाथपिण्डिकस्य आरामे अथको अन्यतरा देवता अभिकंताय रत्या अभिकंतवन्ना केवल कप्पं जेतवनं त्वा येन भगवातेन उपसंकमित्वा भगवन्तं अभिवादेत्वा एकमन्तं अट्टासि एकमन्तं टिटाकोसा देवता भगवन्तं गाताय अज्जबासि पराभवन्तं पुरिसं मयं कुच्चाम गौतमा भगवन्तं कुत्तुमा गम्मा किं पराभवतो मुखं सुविजानो भवं होति सुविजानो पराभवो धम्मकामो भवं होति धम्मदेस्सी पराभवो इति हेतं विजानामा पटमोसो पराभवो द्वितीयं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं असंतस्सापिया होन्ति संतेना कुरुते पियं असतं धम्मं गोचेति तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा द्वितीयोऽसो पराभवो तृतीयं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं निद्राशीली सभाशीली अनुत्ताता चयो नरो अलसो कोदपन्यानो तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा ततीयोऽसो पराभवो चतुर्थं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं यो मातरं पितरं वा जिन्नकं गतयोग्भनं बहु संतो न भरति तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा चतुर्थोऽसो पराभवो पंचमं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं यो ब्राह्मणं समणं वा अन्यं वापि मणिब्बकं मूसावादेन वञ्चेति तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा पंचमोऽसो पराभवो चतुर्थमं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं बहूतवित्तो पुरिसो सहिरण्यो सभोजनो एको भुञ्जति साधूनि तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा चत्तमोऽसो पराभवो सप्तमं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं जातितद्दो धनतद्दो गोत्रतद्दो चयो नरो संज्ञातिं अतिमन्येति तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा सप्तमोऽसो पराभवो अट्टमं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं इत्तिदुत्तो सुरादुत्तो अक्कदुत्तो चयो नरो लब्धं लब्धं विनाशेति तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा अट्टमोऽसो पराभवो नवमं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं सेहि दारे हि असन्तुष्टो वेश्यासु पदुस्सति दुस्सति परदारेषु तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा नवमोऽसो पराभवो दशमं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं अतीतयौवनोपोषो आनेति तिम्बरुत्तनिं तस्सा इस्सा न सुपति तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा दशमोऽसो पराभवो एकादशमं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं इत्तिं सोण्डिं विकिरणिं पुरिसं वापितादिसं इस्सर्यस्मिन् तापेति तं पराभवतो मुखं इति हेतं विजानामा एकादशमोऽसो पराभवो द्वादशमं भगवा ब्रूहि किं पराभवतो मुखं अप्पभोगो महातणो कत्ये जायते कुले शोचे रज्जं पट्टयति तं पराभवतो मुखं एते पराभवे लोके पंडितो समवेक्किया अर्यो दर्शन संपन्नो सलोकं भजते शिवन्ति एतेन सच्चवज्जेन सोपिनो होतु सम्पदा एतेन सच्चवज्जेन होप्नो जय मंगलम् एतेन सच्चवज्जेन पात्नो रतनत्रयम् सबित्यो विवज्जन्तु सबरोगो विनश्यतु माते भवतन्तरायो सुखीदीर्घायुको भवतु सब्बमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सब्बदेवता सब्बबुद्धानुभावेन सब्बधम्मानुभावेन सब्बसङ्गानुभावेन सदा स्वस्ति भवन्तु ते इमिना पुण्यकम्पेन मामे बालसमागमो सतं समागमो होतु यावनिब्बानपत्या इदं मे पुण्याकम् आसवक्षयं वहं होतु सब्बदुःखापमुच्यतु निब्बान संपच्चयो होतु. So this today's chanting, it is one discourse in Sutta. It's called Parabhava Sutta. Parabhava Sutta in Pali. What does it mean? What is the meaning of Parabhava? Parabhava, it's of course it is there in all Indian languages. Parabhava means like a downfall, failure, defeat. So how a person's downfall will start, how he will be defeated in this life, as an individual, as a person, as a father, as a mother, as husband, as wife, as a friend, as a businessman, as whatever profession you are doing. So how you fail, how as an individual, overall as an individual you fail. What are the different ways and means by which the people fail in the life? So that question arises in the minds of the divine beings, some devas. Just like many of you know, the Mangalas, the Mahamangalas. What are the great blessings which will take a person to success? That There are 38 blessings, like not to say be in the company of foolish people, taking care of the parents, and then be in the company of the wise people, and being generous, following the precepts, leading one moral life, not taking intoxicants. So many things you have learned in what is called that Mahamangala Sutta, the great blessings that will take a person towards success, that will take a person towards all kinds of success, not just the success in the career or the profession, the success as a person, the success as a family man, success as a social being. In all aspects, there are a few things, set of rules, which will take a person towards success. The same way, what are the different things, the ways and means that will take a person to downfall, to failure, that will make a person to not to succeed, who will end up in failure. So that was the question arised in the minds of divine beings, and one of them he represented all these divine beings, and he came to Buddha and he questioned Buddha. So, what are the different ways and means that will take us to failure in the life? Then Buddha started explaining one by one, and it's in a poetic way in the form of verses, and it's quite interesting. And after each explanation, after each point, he agrees, he accepts, he rejoices in Buddha's answer, and he says, I have learned the first one, the first reason for failure. Please tell me the second reason for failure. And again, when Buddha says the second reason, I have learned the second reason for failure. Now, please tell me the third reason for failure. That way, in a poetic way, and of course, with some interest, this Gatha goes on, these different Gathas go on in this Parabhava Sutta. There are 12 points that Buddha discusses that leads to one's failure. Sometime back, I think I remember I gave say this Dhamma talk on this discourse and Parabhava Sutta. I don't know whether it is in this Dhamma prism. Maybe before we started this Dhamma prism and we started recording, um, might be the discourse was given. But no problem, some other time we will discuss this, because all these 12 points are also very beautiful. Like your Mahamangala Sutta, all the different 12 points that lead to one's failure. That's also quite interesting, and one should take it up. One should imbibe these 12 points, and then definitely we will learn how to avoid these different ways and means that lead to one's downfall. So that we will see maybe some other time. We will spend the whole Dhamma talk on this Parabhava Sutta. But today, as it is announced previously, that today's Dhamma talk is about very beautiful, again, very, very beautiful dialogue, question answer session between one very wise king. His name is Milinda or Milander. He was a Greek king, Greek origin. He was not exactly a Greek king. His origin, his grandparents, they were from Greece. The Greek origin he had, and but he conquered, and of course, he ruled parts of Afghanistan, then parts of Pakistan, northern parts of Pakistan, and parts of Kashmir also. So they say in some commentaries, he extended his empire to North India, even to North India. That's what they say. But there is some confusion whether he could conquer up to North India. That's still in a that's not very clear. Whatever it is, so he was a great king, undoubtedly, and he was not only a great king, warrior king. He was a very wise king also. During those days, the Bactrian kingdom was called the Bactrian kingdom. That Gandhara, that Afghanistan, northern parts of Pakistan, and Kashmir, parts of Kashmir, there were all this entire province. So it was called Gandhara, and there the the culture of the people were following the teachings of Buddha, many of them, and of course, and in North India also they were learning and practicing Buddha's teachings, and he was looking for some answers for many of his questions that were going on in his mind for so many days, and he was very inquisitive person, very say that seeking, that his desire to learn things, his desire to develop his wisdom, and to get the answers to his questions, that was very much strong in his mind. He started searching so many masters. He went through or say different sects, different religions, different masters. He started exploring. He started discussing with so many masters, and he was a very good debater also. Of course, he was not like one wretched debater, just for the sake of winning in the debates, in the arguments. He wanted to debate. That's what many people do, like simply either to show off or to have that ego satisfaction that I know. That was not actually the very basis of his debates. His basis of debates used to know, to seek, to find out the truth. Uh, but because he was a great king, he was having some kind of arrogance also, some kind of pride also. So because so many masters they could not answer his questions, he developed a little more ego, little more arrogance, and just to help him to tame his ego and also to satisfy, say, his zeal, inner zeal uh, of say getting the truth, of knowing the truth. So some great wise people, they decided to have an interaction, to have a meeting between this great monk Nagasena. He was a renunciate, and he learned all Vedas and all, and then he started learning the teachings of Buddha. He became a great master in Abhidhamma, the higher, the superior teachings of Buddha. That is what is Abhidhamma. He became a great master in those things also. And everybody came to know that he is not only a great, uh, say, teacher and wise man and enlightened person who has realized the ultimate realities of the life, but he is a very good, say, teacher and very good, say, debater, very good, very skillful in explaining and answering the questions of different kinds of people, people with different temperaments, different inclinations. They ask the questions suitable to their temperament and answering according to their temperament, their level, their abilities is a great skill. And this Nagasena, he had that skill, Venerable Nagasena. So then a great debate started between this great wise king Milinda or Milinda and this great monk Nagasena, Venerable Nagasena. And it is compiled in the form of one Nikaya, one book. It's called Milinda Panha, the questions of Milinda, or the debate of King Milinda. That is the name of that book. So it is so authoritative, so beautiful, so full of knowledge that will definitely clarify the doubts of so many people. It is added in this scriptures. Though this happened after 500 years of Buddha, almost 500 years. So it was like, say, nearly some 500 or 600 BC, Buddha was there. So this dialogue between King Milinda and this Venerable Nagasena, this happened after 500 years. That means around first BC, first century BC, or first century AD, something during that time. This dialogue happened between this King Milinda and Venerable Nagasena. And we'll just see the background story of these two great wise men, and then we will take up a few questions asked by this King Milinda. They are very, very interesting questions, and also the interesting answers given by this Venerable Nagasena. That also we will see. Just of course, there are so many questions, there are so many answers. We can't cover all those things. Just uh, as a sample, we will take a few questions. Maybe in future, I'll select a few more questions and answers. That also we will see in future. Also, maybe now and then we can discuss some of these questions and answers, because this will answer many of the doubts that many of our meditators they ask. They ask so many things about rebirth, about karma, about dhamma, about soul. So with beautiful analogies, beautiful simile, these questions were answered by this Venerable Nagasena, because these were the doubts of those people also during the time of Milinda. That was the big question mark that's going on, because all theistic religions they talk about soul, they talk about supreme soul, and it is more or less people just follow those things and they used to get some satisfaction and they keep doing their worldly things. But some wise people they started going deep into the topic of this self and non-self, going to the topic of this mind and matter, and they wanted to know in deep about uh, this this rebirth, this the role of karma and all these things. And those who are not satisfied with the concepts like the soul theory and all, they started finding the answers from the monks, like these great scholars like Venerable Nagasena. So then they could able to get the convincing answers. So that we will see how convincing they are, how simple they are, and how those answers will definitely satiate or it will answer to your questions, your queries also. Your inquisitiveness also will be quenched by these answers. Okay, so that we will see. Before that, we will have some background story of this King Milander or the King Milinda, and also this Venerable Nagasena. We'll just see for some 5 minutes about uh, these two great wise men, and then we will take up the different questions and the answers given by this wise monk, Venerable Nagasena. See, after the Parinibbana uh, of Buddha, during just before the Parinibbana, that Parinibbana means like the great demise. Buddha entered into Mahaparinibbana. That means like he just gave up his body and that great demise of Buddha. It's called Mahaparinibbana. Just before that, Buddha predicted the Pataliputta. That time, the present day Patna was called Pataliputta. He predicted that that time it was a small town. So he predicted a small village maybe. So he could guess, he could predict, he could foresee that this Pataliputra will become a great city with great people, with great wise people also, and very populous city. And he says in that Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Ananda, among the towns and cities that are centers of congregation and commerce of people of the Aryan race, this new town will become the greatest city called Pataliputta, a place where goods are unpacked, sold, and distributed. But it will be in danger from flood, fire, and internal dissension. So in that way, he could foresee, he could predict about the future of this small town, small village, Pataliputta. And as he predicted, it became a great city. And of course, many rulers started ruling that city, including Ashoka. And just before Ashoka, what happened? Or during the time of Ashoka, uh, so this just after Ashoka, so one ruler started ruling that she was the son of a Shudra named Mahapadmananda, he usurped the throne of the kingdom of Magadha. That means the Pataliputra was the capital city of Magadha. And he started expanding his empire up to the Brahmaputra river, that is the present day Assam. And during that period, what happened? Alexander the Great, he conquered Persia and crossed the Hindu Kush into Bactria. Bactria means like the northern Afghanistan, like Kabul and all this place. So he conquered till there. Who? Alexander the Great. King Alexander, he conquered. During the time of this Mahapadma, Nanda, the Nanda dynasty, just before Chandragupta Maurya, these Nandas were there. During that time, they conquered this Afghanistan, these Greek uh, great warriors. This great warrior, this Alexander the Great, he conquered. So he could subdue a lot of inhospitable regions, and he could expand his empire up to USSR, up to Russia. So during that time, what happened? One of his the veterans of Macedonia were unable to continue against such opposition. So Alexander was forced to retreat down the Indus River and then back through Persia, where he died at Babylon in 323 BC. He had left behind him the foundations of the Bactrian kingdom and had surveyed the Zealam and the Indus rivers. After Alexander's death, Chandragupta, the founder of the Mauryan dynasty, was able to drive away the Greek garrisons from the Indus Valley. In 321 BC, he defeated Nanda and became the ruler of the Magadha kingdom from the capital at Pataliputra. So why I am giving these a little bit historic the details, just to give an idea about the authenticity of this king, the Bactrian king, Milinda or King Milinda. So the origin started from the time of Alexander the Great. So from that time, so the Greek invasion started to India, even up to India. So what happens then? The Bactrians, they became powerful, and this person, this King Milinda, who is having this Greek origins, he started ruling this uh, Afghanistan and Pakistan, and of course he stretched his empire up to the Magadha, up to North India. And he's during the time of Chandragupta Maurya, you may be aware that Seleucus, one of the Alexander's successor, he gave his daughter. However, to this Seleucus sent his ambassador. Seleucus sent his ambassador Megasthenes to Pataliputra, and from what remains of his writings, we know something about the size of the army and the strength of this Chandragupta and his son Bindusara. And what happened then after Bindusara's death? This Seleucus, again, he could expand his kingdom, and this king Ashoka, he became powerful and he could expand up to Takashila, up to Afghanistan and Pakistan. But somehow there was an understanding between the Greek kings and the Magadhan kings. And as a result of this understanding, this mixing of Indian culture and the Greek culture, this Bactrian kingdom, it became very powerful, uh, and Ashoka started spreading the teachings of Buddha, the Buddhism, in these different parts of the this western part of India, in this Hindu Kush mountains and all. In that way, the Greek kingdom also, it started absorbing the teachings of Buddha. So in this transition period, this king, he came to the limelight, this King Milinda, who is having the origin of the Greek kings. At the same time, he was influenced by the Indian culture. He started learning all Indian religions. He started learning Buddha's teachings also. So during this transition period, where that conglomeration, that unification of the Greek civilization and the Indian civilization started, during that time, this king developed a lot of knowledge from both these great kingdoms, the Magadhan kingdom or the Indian culture and the Greek culture. He got the best from both these cultures, but still he was looking for the higher wisdom, the higher knowledge, the higher Avidhamma. So that is the background of this king, uh, Milinda or King Milinda. So, from the available evidence, we can postulate that Menander or Milinda was born in Bactria. Bactria means the present day northern Afghanistan. And in the early years of his rule, he expanded his father's kingdom to the Indus Valley and beyond, perhaps later establishing his capital at, say, near Indus Valley. There is a place called Sagala. So that became his capital. And then he started searching about the great wise men in India because now his empire expanded up to India. So he has started looking for the great wise men who could answer his questions about, say, about life, about about philosophy, about theology. He started exploring. Once his empire started expanding till India, then his expansion in knowing the different cultures, the different truths, the spiritual truths, that desire also expanded in his mind. So that is about the background of this great king, Milinda or Milanda. So this is mentioned in the Chinese texts also. Chinese Tiptaka also this is mentioned, and in so many Pali books also it is mentioned, and so many commentaries. Commentaries means like after Buddha, there are so many great wise scholars. They started explaining about the teachings of Buddha uh, elaborately, and that's what is called commentary. In commentaries also, they started referring about this thing Milinda, about his inquisitiveness. Here, the point I want to highlight is the inquisitiveness. Inquisitiveness is very, very essential to become a wise man, to become a happy man. So that is what is the point here. So that's what Buddha says in one of the sutras, that that is the cause and condition for a person to become intelligent, person to become a wise person. What is the cause and condition? That inquisitiveness, that eagerness to know the things by asking questions, by say inquiring about what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, what is true, what is not true, what is good, what is not good, what is wholesome, what is not wholesome. That kind of inquisitiveness is the key factor for any person to grow spiritually, develop spiritually. That is the point that I want to highlight, and that happened in the case of King Milinda. He was learned in the all arts and sciences and was of an inquiring disposition. He was skilled in debating. So once, and no one could resolve his doubts about religious matters. Though he questioned all the famous teachers, none could satisfy him. Asagutta, one of a large number of arahants living in the Himalayas, knew of the king's doubts by means of supernormal power. Yeah, as I was telling you. So there was one arahant in the Himalayas. His name was Asagutta. He came to know with his supernormal power. This great king, King Milinda, he is having a lot of queries, lot of eagerness to know about many things. Then if the king himself knows so many things in automatically, his subjects will definitely learn many things from him. So in that way, it is a service to Dhamma, service to the teachings of Buddha. So with that idea, what this Arahant, the great monk, what he did, so he convened an assembly to ask if there was anyone who could answer the king. Among so many of his disciples, he convened one meeting and he questioned whether anybody can answer the doubts of the king. There was no one. So the whole assembly ascended to the heaven of the 33 and requested the god Mahasena to take birth as a man in order to protect the religion. So none of the disciples or the people, his friends, they could able to answer this King Milinda's questions. Then what they decided. Now there is one being, one person the name of God Mahasena in the Tavatimsa, in the divine realm. He is able, he has that skillfulness in answering all the doubts of this king, great king Milinda. So we'll go and request him to take rebirth in the human realm and to answer the questions of this king. So then they went to this the Tavatimsa realm and requested this God Mahasena to take rebirth in the human realm and to answer the questions of this great king. Then he took birth in uh, in a family. His father was one Brahman by name Sonuttara. Had the boy educated in the three Vedas, but the boy Nagasena, he declared, empty are these three Vedas and as a shaft. So in a Brahmin family, he took birth and he studied all the Vedas and he realized that all these Vedas are empty. It's like a shaft. There is in them neither reality, worth, nor essential truth. I don't see any essential truth in these things. I should pursue something else. In that way, he started inquiring. A small boy, some 7, 8 years old boy, this Nagasena. He, after learning everything of the Vedas, so then he wanted to say again grow in his spiritual knowledge. So he was looking for some other truth, some other superior truths. At that time, what happened? One of the monks by name Rohana, he was waiting for this young man and boy, this Nagasena, to become 7 years old or 8 years old, who is now ready to become a renunciate, give up his family life, and now he's ready to learn the Abhidhamma, the Buddha's teachings. So realizing that the boy was ready, this Rohana, that means that, the disciple of the, who visited the Tautim Saral to to request this that God to become Nagasena. The same monk, so the same renunciate. He is little old, and he was waiting for this Nagasena to develop that eagerness to learn Abhidhamma. So then what he did, and the parents consented their son becoming a novice. He became renunciate. He took the robes and his CK under the discipleship of this Rohana. So this Nagasena studied the Abhidhamma. After gaining perfect knowledge of the 7 books of the Abhidhamma, Nagasena was admitted to the order of monks and Rohana sent him to Vattaniya hermitage to study the Asagutta, study with Asagutta. So in that way, so this Nagasena, he became well versed in all the teachings of Buddha and he started learning from so many Buddhist masters, the Arahants. He started learning so many things from all these great masters. So what happened during this time? This King Milinda, he was still searching for the right teacher who can answer his questions. So he visited one bhikkhu by name Ayupala and he requested him. The most he asked this Ayupala, the bhikkhu, it is for the sake of being able to live in righteousness and spiritual calm, we have to go forth from home to homelessness. In that way, this bhikkhu Ayupala, he answered this King Milinda when he had questioned that why is it necessary for everyone to become monks, to become wise people, to become liberated people. Then he says that we will get more freedom, we'll have less worldly responsibility, so we can focus more on this spiritual life. That's why we have become monks. That way, this Vayupala says. Then he again questions this King Milinda. Is there, Venerable Sir, any layman who lives so? The elder admitted that there were many such laymen, and the king retorted, there are so many laymen also who can become liberated, who can become Aryas, who can see liberation. So in that way, when he answered, then this proud king, he says, then most venerable Ayupala, you are going forth is of no use. Then what is the use of renunciation? What is the use of becoming a monk? It's of no use. It must be in consequence of sins committed in some former birth that recluses renounce the world
and even subject themselves to the added constraints of one or other of the ascetic practices, such as wearing only rag robes, eating only one meal a day, or not lying down to sleep. There is no virtue therein, no meritorious abstinence, no righteousness of life. So, in that way, he declared that there is no sense in this torturing the body by becoming a monk because of some unwholesome actions that we have done in the previous life. Now they become monks. In that way, he just very proudly, very arrogantly, he just say uh, ridiculed, or in a way, he ridiculed the monk's life. So that time, Ayupala kept quiet, and he could not answer to this kind of proud or arrogant behavior of this king. When the king had spoken thus, the Venerable Ayapala was silenced and had not a word to say. Then the 500 Bactrian Greeks who accompanied the king said, "The elderly is learned, but he is also diffident, so he makes no reply." So, but now the other advisors and other companions of this uh, King Milinda, now they said, now we can't get answer from this Ayupala. Now we will find out some other master who can answer the questions of our King Milinda. In that way, again they started searching for some suitable teacher, wise teacher who can answer this King Milinda. So again he questioned, "Is there then, my good men, any other learned sage who is able to discuss things with me and dispel my doubts?" There is great king, an elder named Nagasena, who is learned of subdued manners yet full of courage. He is capable of discussing with you. He is now staying in one hermitage. Now you should go there and put your questions to him. In that way, they could say that he is the suitable person now. Now he is ready. Now, though he is very, very young. uh, so now she is able to answer your questions. His name is Nagasena. When he heard this very word Nagasena, at the mere mention of the name Nagasena, the king became alarmed and the hairs of his body stood on end. He developed the goosebumps because of that connection. In so many lives, there was connection. He was a teacher that was there in his subconscious. And when the very name that Nagasena he heard, so he developed tremendous let's say, that spiritual urgency to meet him and to discuss with him. So that is the background story of this two great wise men, one wise king and wise monk. Though the monk was very young, and this king he decided to discuss all his and get the clarification, get the clarity to all his doubts, answer to all his questions through this great monk, Nagasena. So when he came to know that he is in one particular place, he visited him. King Milinda went up to Nagasena, exchanged polite and friendly greetings, and took his seat respectfully to one side. Then Milinda began by asking. Now the debate starts. This is the background. Now the debate starts between this King Milinda and this Nagasena. So he showed all the respect, though he was very, very young. He showed his respect to his young monk Nagasena, and he started asking questions. "How is your reverence known? And what, sir, is your name?" So he knew just to start the dialogue, the communication. So, what's your name, sir? In that way, he started asking some formal questions. But he knew the Nagasena, even in his formal questions, there is some inquisitiveness, there is, I can answer even his deep rooted doubts, even in these normal questions also. So in that way, what is the answer of this Nagasena? "O king, I am known as Nagasena." So now you just give all your attention because these are very, very beautiful questions and answers. This will definitely give a lot of insights into uh, the wisdom, the knowledge of soul, knowledge of rebirth, knowledge of karma, knowledge of what is individual self, lot of ideas, lot of clarity we get. Now give all your attention and listen to this. So what is the answer of this Nagasena? O king, I am known as Nagasena, but this is only a designation in common use. Just for, it's a conventional reality, that's all. It's just for the sake of some designation that one should carry. So just for the sake of this common use, I'm called as Nagasena. For no permanent individual can be found. There's nothing permanent in this case of Nagasena. There is no permanence in this Nagasena, in this name, or in this individual who is carrying this name Nagasena. There is nothing permanent, but it is in the conventional sense. I am called as Nagasena. That's my name. In that way, this Nagasena answers when the king questions, "What's your name, sir?" So he gave some in-depth philosophical answer even to this very simple question, "What's your name?" He says, though conventionally I am called as Nagasena, but in essence, in reality, in permanence, there is nothing like Nagasena. In that way, he answers. Now, his debating mind became sharp now. So this King Milinda, now this is what I wanted. I want to debate on this. I want to discuss more on this. That way, what he does now, this King Milinda. Then Milinda called upon the Bactrian Greeks, all his companions, all his friends who are accompanying him, some 500 of them. He called upon them and the monks and also other monks of Nagasena to bear the witness. To bear the witness, he called upon the Bactrian Greeks and also the monks to bear the witness. This Venerable Nagasena says that no permanent individual is implied in his name. In his name, there is nothing permanence. That's what Venerable Nagasena is saying. Is it possible to approve of that? Is it possible to approve that? He is saying that there is no permanent thing. But we can see something permanent in front of us, in the form of this body, in the form of his talking, in his background. He has father, mother, he has teachers, everything he has. And he is saying that it is very conventional. There is nothing permanent in this. That's what he is saying. Whether we can approve this. That way he questions all his friends and also the monks who are assembled there. Then he turned to Venerable Nagasena and said, "If most Venerable Nagasena, that is true, who is it who gives you robes, food, and shelter? Who lives the righteous life? Or again, who kills living beings, steals, commits adultery, tells lies, or takes strong drink? If what you say is true, then there is neither merit nor demerit, nor is there any doer of good or evil deeds, and no result of karma. If, Venerable Sir, a man were to kill you, there would be no murder, and it follows that there are no masters or teachers in your order. You say that you are called Nagasena. Now, what is that Nagasena? Is it the hair? Oh, so again he started. He is a little over smart person, and also he was a great king. That proudness was there. He started explaining. So, if there is nothing permanent, then there is nothing like good or bad acts. So if everything is conventional, and why should we do good actions? Why should we avoid bad actions? Then there is no meaning in practicing precepts. Then there is no meaning in wisdom and ignorance. If everything will vanish, if everything is changing, if there is nothing permanent, then why should we follow all these things? What is the need of masters or teachers? Then he says, you say that you are called Nagasena. Now, what is that Nagasena? Is it the hair? But you say, but still there is something which can be called as Nagasena in this mind body phenomenon. Then what is that? Is it the hair that is Nagasena? In that way, he asks this Nagasena. And what is the answer? I don't say that, great king. No, I don't say that the hair is Nagasena. Is it then the nails, the teeth, skin, or other parts of the body that is Nagasena? Is it your skin or teeth, if not hairs, if other parts of the body, whether that is Nagasena? You say that conventionally you can call it as Nagasena. If not here, whether it is teeth or skin or what else is Nagasena, in that way this king asks Nagasena. He says certainly not. None of them are Nagasena. In that way, Nagasena, Venerable Nagasena answers. Or is it the body, or is this entire body is Nagasena, or the feelings that you have that is Nagasena? As I used to explain in different levels about the four faculties of the mind, they are called four khandhas. One is the body, Rupa Khandha, and in the mind there are four khandhas. The Vedana Khandha, that is the feelings, is one khandha. Whether that feelings or Vedana is you, whether the Vedana is Nagasena, or perceptions, whether Sanya, your right knowledge, right perception, that is you, or formations, your Sankara, your confidence, your Sankara, whether that is you, that is Nagasena, or consciousness, Vijnana, the other faculty of the mind, whether any one of them or two of them is you, Nagasena. In that way, he questions, is it all of these combined, or is it something outside of them that is Nagasena? If all these, the body, the mind, of course, there are four faculties. Whether the combined of these two things, mind and body, is Nagasena, or it is something beyond these two things that is Nagasena. You say that there is nothing permanent. Conventionally, there is something called Nagasena. What is that you can call a conventional thing as Nagasena? Whether it is your body, whether it is your mind, the mind again, whether it is your feelings, whether it is your confidence, whether it is your consciousness, that is Nagasena, or in the body, whether it is the hair that is Nagasena, whether it is the skin that is Nagasena, whether the entire body is Nagasena, entire mind is Nagasena, or the combination of body and mind is Nagasena, or is there something beyond this body and mind that is Nagasena? In that way, he started posing the questions. Then what is the answer? Still Nagasena answered, it is none of these. All these things you asked, none of these are Nagasena. That way, Venerable Nagasena answers. Then ask I may, I can discover no Nagasena. If none of these things are Nagasena, then there is no Nagasena. There's nothing like convention also. Because you are saying that hair is not Nagasena, skin is not Nagasena, body is not Nagasena, feelings are not Nagasena. The mind is not Nagasena. The combination of body and mind is also not Nagasena. Then there is no Nagasena. How can I say that even conventionally also there is Nagasena? I can't say like that. In that way, this King Milinda, he answers. He again starts doubting. Nagasena is an empty sound. It is just an empty sound. There is no essence in this word Nagasena. It is just a sound. Who is it we see before us? It is a falsehood that your reverence has spoken. So there is nothing, but still you are saying conventionally there is something. Then you are wrong. You are speaking falsehood. You are lying. You are speaking falsehood. In that way, he starts talking about dad of Nagasena, this King Milinda. You, King Milinda, sir, have been reared in great luxury, has become your noble birth. How did you come here? By foot or in a chariot? Now, King this Venerable Nagasena understood. So, without similes, without analogies, it is difficult to convince this. It's difficult to make this king to understand about what I'm talking about. So, what he asked this King Milinda, so you are a king. How did you come here? You came by foot or you came by chariot? In that way, he asked, in a chariot, Venerable Sir. So he replies, then explain, great king, what that is. Is it the axle or the wheels or the chassis or reins or yoke that is the chariot? Is it all of these combined or is it something apart from them? Now you explain what is a chariot, whether it is the axle or the wheels or the yoke or reins or whatever chassis. What is the chariot? You explain me. Or the combination of all these things is chariot, or
None of them is chariot. You explain me. It is none of these things, Venerable Sir. So it is not the individual these things. You can't say the different parts also coming together. You keep them separately. That is also not chariot. In that way, none of these things are chariot. So that is the answer of this King Milinda. Then, sir, this chariot is an empty sound. So, according to your answer, there is nothing like chariot because none of these parts of the chariot is chariot. But still, you are saying you have come by chariot. You are speaking falsehood. There is nothing like chariot because you are saying that none of these parts of the chariot are chariot. Then you are speaking falsehood. You spoke falsely when you said that you came here in a chariot. You are a great king of India. Who are you afraid of that you don't speak the truth? Then he called upon the Bactrian Greeks and the monks to bear witness. This King Milinda has said that he came here in a chariot, but when asked what it is, he is unable to show it. Is it possible to approve of that? Then, in the same way, the same style, calling the witness of his friends and the monk. The same way, this Nagasena also he is calling the witness of the monks and his friends, and he is saying that he came by chariot, but now he is saying that he could not define what is chariot. He says that there is nothing, none of the body, none of the parts of the chariot are chariot, and he is speaking falsehood. The same way, the same language, the same intensity, he replied back to this Milinda. Then the 500 Bactrian Greeks shouted their approval and said to the king, "Get out of that if you can. Now he has trapped you. Now just get out of that trap if it is possible in that way." These his friends, he told this king Milinda. Then what this Milinda says? Venerable sir, I have spoken the truth. It is because it has all these parts that it comes under the term chariot. So I have spoken the truth, I have not spoken the falsehood. All these parts coming together, it became chariot. Very good, sir, your majesty has rightly grasped the meaning. Even so, it is because of the 32 body parts, the skin, flesh, all these 32 inside body parts, outside body parts, they have to come together. And the 4 parts of the mind, they have to come together. And both body and the mind, they have to come together. Then only the term Nagasena has come in this case. As it was said by, just as it is by the existence of the various parts that the word chariot has come, the same way by the existence of these different body parts and the mind parts, this being Nagasena has came to the existence. So in that way, Buddha could give the analogy of the chariot, how the chariot has came into existence by combining the different parts of the chariot, it has come into existence. The same way, the different parts of the body, different parts of the mind, they came into being. They came in together, then the being has come into existence. Most wonderful, Venerable Sir, most extraordinary that you have solved this puzzle. Difficult though it was, if the Buddha himself were here, he would approve of your reply. King Milinda went up to Nagasena, exchanged polite and friendly greetings, and took his seat respectfully. Again, of course, again, the next question starts in the next day. So that was only just an introduction in the first meeting. So he got some idea about, though there's nothing permanent in the chariot, different parts of the chariot come together and it becomes chariot. In the same way, different body parts, the different mental parts, aggregates, they come together and it becomes an individual, becomes a being. There's nothing like soul. Just like there is no soul in the chariot, it is different parts come together, it becomes chariot. The same way, the different parts of the mind, different parts of the body come together and it becomes a being, an individual. So now he could able to comprehend, but without soul also, without this concept of self, personality, soul also, there is a possibility of the mind and matter to come together and to become an individual. That clarity he could get. So again, there are so many questions in this chapter 1, the first chapter. So that, of course, there are so many questions that now I can't look into all those questions. Now in the second chapter, we will see one question and then we will conclude, because if we go through this, then there is no, maybe we can give some 100 Dhamma talks, maybe more than 200 Dhamma talks regarding this Milinda Panha. So now we will take up the first question in the second chapter, which is related to the first question. That's why I am related to the question, the previous question in the first chapter. That's why I'm taking the second question in the chapter 2. Though it is first question in chapter 2, but in our discussion it is second question. So what is the second question? He who is reborn, Agasena, is the same person or another person? That is his second question. All right, now there is nothing like soul. We agree? There is nothing like soul, the permanent soul. Without that permanent soul also, so by the combination of the body and mind, a person comes into existence, just like the different parts of a chariot coming together, it becomes a chariot. The same way, a person also, a being also comes into existence by the combination of matter and mind, the body and mind. Now, my second question is, he who is reborn, Agasena, is he the same person or another? Now, let us say you die or I die, and next I'll take birth. Whether it is the same me or it's a different me, completely different me who takes rebirth. Whether it is same you or the different you who takes rebirth. That was his next question. Then the answer is neither the same nor another. It is neither the same person who takes rebirth nor a completely another person who takes rebirth. In that way, Venerable Nagasena answers. Please give me an illustration. Please expand. Please elaborate this and give me an illustration. Give me a simile or some illustration. Please explain this with some example. In that way, he requests the King Milinda. Then he gives the example. In the case of a pot of milk that turns first to curds, then to butter, then to ghee, it would not be right to say that the ghee, butter, and curds are the same as the milk, but they have come from that. Just like milk becomes the butter and it becomes ghee. In the same way, so in the rebirth, what happens? A little bit of the original content is there, but a lot of changes also happen. In the curds or in the ghee, little bit of milk content is also there, but a lot of changes also have happened. Milk is not exactly as same as ghee. There is a little bit of contents of milk and a lot of changes also happened in the ghee, or in this process of milk becoming curds and becoming butter and becoming ghee. A lot of changes have happened, but some originality is also there. In the same way, in these rebirths also, so a few things are there, a few things have changed. In that way, you can't say in the rebirth everything remains same or everything will become completely changed. In that way, you can't say. Just like one more analogy that we used to speak, the two waves in the ocean, let us say. The first wave will push the second wave. The second wave is not exactly same as the first wave. A part of first wave, a part of the first wave, some amount of water is there in the second wave. But some changes, some other part also has joined. The difference, there is some difference in the first and second wave. There is some, say, same or the same thing is also there in the first and second. Just like in the milk and ghee, a few things are same, a few things have changed. The same way in the two births also, in this birth and in the next birth, the rebirth. A few things are same, a few things have changed. Is the man who will not be reborn aware of the fact? Yes, O king. How does he know it? By the cessation of all that is cause or condition of rebirth. As a farmer who does not plow or sow or reap would know that his granary is not getting filled up. Now, whether we can able to find out in future whether we will have rebirth or not, is it possible?
Then Nagasena says it is possible. How? He gives the example of a farmer. A farmer who has not plowed the field, who has not sown the seeds, who has not grown the crop, he knows that there is he can't fill the granary with the grains. It will be empty. The granaries will be empty. In the same way, a person who is a meditator who knows there is no defilements in the mind, which are the cause of rebirth. There is no ignorance in the mind. There is no greed in the mind. There is no hatred in the mind. The mind is free from all these defilements. Then he knows that there will be no rebirth. The same way, just like in the example of a farmer who has not done anything to grow, to get the crop, he knows that his granaries will be empty. The same way, one can know that there will be no rebirth. So, in that way, about this rebirth, about this soul, these different questions were answered. There are so many questions he asked. When he asks, what is it, Nagasena, that is reborn? Then he says, it is the mind and matter that is reborn. Is this very mind and matter that is reborn? No, it is not. But this mind and matter deeds are done. And because of those deeds, another mind and matter is reborn. But that mind and matter is not thereby released from the results of its previous deeds. Give me an illustration. The mind and matter keeps on changing. One mind and matter will lead to another mind and matter, just like the waves. So give me an illustration. It is like a fire that a man might kindle, and having warmed himself, he might leave it burning and go away. Then if that fire were to set light to another man's field, and the owner were to seize him and accuse him before the king, and he were to say, Your Majesty, I did not set this man's field on fire. The fire that I left burning was different to that which burned his field. I am not guilty. Would he deserve punishment? Yes, indeed, because whatever he might say, the later fire resulted from the former one. Say one person, he has say burned some fire and he warmed himself with that fire, but he left it unextinguished. It was still burning. He left it, and what happened? It spread, and it has spread to another man's field also, and his field was burnt. And he accused him, and he took him to the king, and the king punishes this first man, though he has not directly involved in the crime. His fire has not destroyed, the same fire has not destroyed this other person's field, but still it is the cause. His fire is the cause of the fire that has burnt the other person's fire. So in that way, one fire has led to another fire. The same way, one body and mind will lead to another body and mind. So the defilements, the ill deeds or the good deeds, that also will be carried. So the good deeds will be prized or will be rewarded. The bad deeds will be punished, just like in the case of these two fires that we see the example. Just so working by this mind and matter, deeds are done. And because of those deeds, another mind and matter is reborn. But that mind and matter is not thereby released from the results of its previous deeds. Just like this fire, the previous fire. Because of the previous fire, this first person is getting punishment. The same way, the previous life, if you have done the ill deeds, carrying that particular body and mind, so you will be punished in this life. That is very much possible. So in that way, how this law of karma works, how this law of cause and effect will work in this flow of body and mind. Even though there is no soul, this flow of body and mind, just like this flow of the fire, flow of the change of the milk into curds and curds into butter and butter into ghee. The same way, this body and like the flow of the waves, first wave leads to second wave leads to third wave. The same way, this body and mind also, the flow will keep going until and unless that the fuel is your defilements, your ignorance, your greed, your hatred is not stopped, then this fuel will keep on feeding this body and mind,
and we will keep on taking different bodies and minds. When this fuel is stopped, this greed, hatred, and delusion is stopped, then the formation of new body and mind, it will stop. There is no role of a soul or supreme soul in this flow of bodies and minds, in this flow of defilements, in this flow of the fueling of bodies and minds by these defilements. There is nothing like soul. It is only the game of your defilements, the dance of your defilements that is pushing you from one life to another life. It is not, say, what do you say, the Leela of the divine beings, the Krishna Leela, whatever they say. It is a Leela of the Kleshas. Kleshas is defilements that is pushing you from one life to another life. So that's what is the explanation of this Nagasena for this question of soul, question of rebirth, question of karma. Your karmas will follow, it will push you because the defilements are pushing you. Defilements and karmas, they go together. If you have good defilements, you will do good karma. If you have defilements like this, like sophisticated, then you have good karma. If the defilements are very gross, then you have bad. That will push you to take one more body and mind. So this law of karma, this soul, this understanding of rebirth, all these things so are discussed here. Then again he asks, what is the difference between reasoning and wisdom? And there are so many interesting questions he asks. So many questions, very, very interesting questions. That, of course, next time I will select some very interesting questions and we will discuss. And he gives the example of reasoning and wisdom. So he gives the example of course, during those times. So when you are harvesting, catching hold of all the plants together, all the grasses together, and then reaping it, cutting it with a sickle. So catching hold of all the plants together is with your reasoning, and cutting it with the sickle is wisdom. So catching hold of all the defilements by reasoning, you have to reason by reasoning, by intelligence, you have to catch hold of your defilements, and through wisdom, what you have to do, you have to cut it, you have to destroy it by developing awareness, by developing the letting go, by developing the suffering that it creates, the defilements. You have to destroy your defilements. So reasoning and the wisdom, they should go together. Reasoning will help you to bring all together, and the wisdom will help you to cut it, let go it, to remove it. So that art of letting go is wisdom, art of pooling the wise and the vices and the virtues, and noting correctly what is wise, what is virtue. That is intelligence, that is reasoning, and developing this art of letting go, art of observing, art of destroying. That is what is wisdom. That way, he gives exact answers to everything. Then he explains about what is confidence, or what is morality, what is the uh, power of confidence, what is the power of morality, in what way it helps to develop the mind. So everything he explains with lot of illustrations, lot of analogies, lot of similes. So now and then we will take a few things and we will see that how it will, some of these questions and answers will help us to comprehend Dhamma, comprehend or understanding about the body and mind, understanding about the defilements, understanding about liberating ourselves from the defilements, understanding the different meditations that you have learned, how they are helpful in developing your intelligence, that is pulling the defilements together, and also how these meditations will help you to destroy these defilements, let go these defilements. So, in meditation is the master key to develop both reasoning and also wisdom. The process of meditation, you can pull all the defilements, and also you can destroy with your awareness, with your wisdom. You can destroy all these defilements. So that just it is an introduction. Of course, once in a while, I'll just take a few things from this and I can just integrate some of these concepts of Milinda Panna, the debate of King Milinda into our Dhamma talks, so that the comprehension of Dhamma becomes more easy. Okay, I think that much is enough for today. And as usual, if you have some questions, you can ask, then we'll come. Any questions? Anirudh?
Pranam Manteji.
Yes, Anirudh.
So far, there is no question.
No? This is a major difference between all theistic religions and the Buddha's view, right view. All of you are into this path of right view. Right view, the importance of understanding the mind-centeredness. It's not completely body-oriented, or it's not completely soul and supreme soul. That kind of understanding is of the theists, the soul-centered people, or the theistic people. And the body-centered, or the materialistic people, they are just bothered about the body only. But the Buddha's right view is all about the mind, because mind is everything. Start working on the mind, you can understand about the body. Because if you start working on the mind, you can understand about the rebirth and the law of karma and the uh, your merits, demerits, good, bad, everything. And how good leads to good, good rebirth, bad leads to bad rebirth, good begets good, bad begets good. How these things happen. All these things one will understand by becoming mind-centered. That is what is the right view. And understanding this right view to so many uh, examples, illustrations, just like this example of chariot, how chariot, like the different parts of the chariot coming together, it becomes chariot. But separately, none of them can be called as chariot, or a group of them also can't be called as chariot. Same way, body and mind, in a proper way, if they come together, then only it becomes being. Nothing like soul. The rebirth will happen, it will not be the same, just like the first wave and the second wave, they're not exactly the same, at the same time, they are not exactly different. So in the same way, we can understand that soul, there's nothing like soul in any of the bodily components or in any of the mind components. All our defilements that will bring our body and mind together, that will take us to next life. So we have to work on the defilements. We have to work on our own greed, our own hatred, and our own ignorance. With reasoning, we have to bring all these defilements together with wisdom, with different meditation practices, with different ways and means of letting go through our meditation practices, through elimination of the mind. We can completely destroy with the wisdom, completely destroy these of meditation, completely destroy these defilements, and that's how we can stop all kinds of suffering, and we can stop rebirths also. That is this path. This path is not like there is one soul. We will pray and surrender to some supreme soul, ignore our mind, then we will become happy. Then we will be free from rebirths. That is not the path here. It is to, by reasoning, we should cool all the defilements like greed, hatred, and delusion. And by wisdom, by meditations, we should destroy these defilements. Then only we can be free from all kinds of suffering caused, all kinds of suffering caused because of defilements, and also the rebirth can be stopped. So one will get moksha, nirvana, with this art and science of bringing the defilements and destroying the defilements. That is the only, that is the way. That is the right way. That is the way based on the right view.
that gives happiness, that gives freedom, that gives wisdom, that gives liberation, that gives enlightenment. That is the path. That kind of key understanding one will develop with this questioning and answering, and how it is unique and how it is different from other paths. That clarity also you will get. Okay, that is the right view path. That is the mind centered path. That's what you are learning in all the different right view meditation techniques, right view meditation levels. You note the different faculties of the mind and how the defilements arise in these different faculties of the mind through intelligence and reasoning and through understanding. And also by practicing meditations, how to destroy these unified or integrated or grouped defilements by different meditations, how we can destroy. So how we can annihilate these defilements, which lead to freedom, which lead to purification, which lead to mental growth and development, and which lead to mind liberation also. That path, if it is very clear for you, then you develop more conviction in this path and more seriously, more enthusiastically, you can work in this path and you can progress further and further. Okay, so that is the idea behind this today's topic of this King Milinda's questions to Honorable Nagasena. Okay.
Pranam Manteji.
Yes, Honorable.
Vikas Patil sir is asking, what is lifespan? That is age years.
What is lifespan? That is?
That is age years.
Yeah, see for a body in different species, you see, for human beings, the lifespan is now it is around, let us say, 75 years, 75 or between 70 and 80 years. That is the average lifespan for the human species. Because the human body can be supported only for 70 to 80 years, an average. But for a mosquito, it may be very less, maybe 1 week or even less than that, 3-4 days. Because the mosquito's body is supported by the mosquito's lifespan. That lifespan is very less. It is just for 3-4 days or maybe 1 week. For a horse, it may be some 40-50 years. For an elephant, it may be 120 years. For a tortoise, it may be some 200 years. That way, for different species, different lifespan we have. So the different lifespans, if you can understand, it is supported by the particular species. For each species, it varies. That is one of the faculties. That is one of the faculties of the mind and also the body. In the body, there is something called Rupa Jivitendriya, as I used to tell you, the body life force. And for the mind, there is something called Nama Jivitendriya, the mind life force. So these two kinds of life force will determine the mind's life and also the body's life. So here you are talking about the body's lifespan. The body's lifespan is dependent on the body's life force. The body's life force is dependent on the body lifespan. So it is like, so in the divine realms, it is so many thousands of years. That's what they say. So in the divine life, the Brahmic realms, they say it is millions of years. So it varies from species to species. It again, lifespan is one of the products of your karma. If you have, say, let us say, more of evil karma, bad karma, then you take the birth in some evil realms or in the bad realms or in the woeful realms, like your animal realm or in the Peta realm or in the hellish realms. So in those realms, so whatever lifespan is there, it's relatively less. So in the divine realms and in the Brahmic realms, the lifespan is more because of your good action. The good actions always increase the lifespan in the pleasant or in the happy realms. So again, the lifespan is related to the karma, the actions. Like just like your mind, just like your intelligence, just like the body, just like the health is dependent on actions. The same way, your lifespan is also dependent on the karma. So once a person focuses more and more on his mental purity, good actions, and automatically lifespan also increase. In this life also, and in the next life also. But many a times they say, as I explained in the Chulakama Vibandha Sutta, if you are addicted, if you are yeah, accustomed to kill and more beings and reduce the lifespan of the other beings, then you will say you will become a victim of that short lifespan. It will reciprocate. Your lifespan will reduce. Your lifespan will be uh, it will not be full. It will not be completed. Why some people die at young age in this life? The main supporting cause and condition is what you have done in the previous life. The previous life you are accustomed, you are used to kill more and more beings and reduce the life of those beings. Then in this life, that will be carried and you will be killed. Your life will go halfway. So in that way, again your defilements and again your actions based on defilements, that will influence, that will have an impact, that will have a role in deciding your lifespan. That's why this law of cause and effect is so powerful, so universal, so authentic. If I kill, I will be killed. If I steal, somebody will steal from me. I will be stolen. My material, my things will be stolen. Hmm. If I torture, I will be tortured. If I cheat, I will be cheated. So this is law of cause and effect. So based on this law of cause and effect only, the lifespan is decided. If I help other beings to have more and more lifespan, then my lifespan also will be increased. If I care, I will be cared. If I protect, if I safeguard, I will be protected. I will be safeguarded. This is a simple law of cause and effect that will completely change, say, one's lifestyle, one's perception towards life, one's anything, any damn thing. That's why working on this law of cause and effect is what is your wisdom. Wisdom is all about, so whatever I want, that I should give, that I should promote or give. If I want say, riches, I should make other people to become rich. I should be generous. If I want health, I should see that other people should get health. If I want to be wise, I should see that other people should be wise. Whatever you give, you get back. The same thing holds good with your lifespan also. If you want to have longer lifespan, then you should see that you should not affect other beings' lifespan. At the same time, you should promote the life of other beings. Then that individual will get longer lifespan. But in this process of meditation and mind purification, everything will go together. All the virtues that you require, your health, wealth, lifespan, success, everything, they go in a uniform way. That's why I encourage people to take up this right to meditation, not stick on to only one aspect. If you want to become only rich, then you should develop this generosity. But you may become a stupid person. That is possible, or you may become, say, unhealthy person. Though you are generous, you are not taking care of your anger issues and all. You are creating some suffering through your anger. So, in this integrated approach is possible through this right view meditation. So, in this right view meditations, everything you approach in an integrated way. All the virtues, they go
or in a step by step, in a united way, integrated, united way. That's why everyday meditation practice, practicing all the meritorious actions in a united, integrated way, one should practice. I practice only meditation, or I practice only generosity, I practice only morality, I ignore other things, I don't practice punyanamodana, I don't practice patidana, I don't practice dhamma savana. No, it's not a good idea. So integrating everything is the best way. That's what I suggest all of you. Some people, they may not understand. They think that, oh, this one is enough, good enough for me. Other things I ignore. You see the connection between each and every one of them. And you just see how by practicing these things in an integrated way, how it leads to overall purification of the mind, overall, progress in the spiritual development or the purification of the mind, and getting everything in a balanced way. The health, lifespan, wealth, relation, name and fame, everything in a balanced way you will get. So coming to your questions, so the lifespan is dependent on how much you have, say, helped for other beings to have better lifespan. That is one major factor that contributes to your lifespan. The other factor is how superiorly, how say significantly you purified your mind. You have significantly purified your mind. If you take rebirth in a divine realm, then thousands of years of lifespan you will get. And if your purification is much more superior, if you take rebirth in Brahmic realms, then millions of lives you have, you will get a realm, you will get a plane of existence where your lifespan is millions of. You have not purified your mind, you ignored your mind to take rebirth in some animal realm, let us say. Then, let us say, some hours, your lifespan will be some 40, 50 years. That's significantly purifying the mind. That will also have an impact on the lifespan. That is another factor. And the first factor is how much you have helped other beings to have their lifespan. If you have cut short the lifespan of other beings, then your lifespan will be cut short. If you have increased the lifespan of other beings, then your lifespan will be increased. These two factors you can understand about how to increase or decrease the lifespan. Okay. Next question.
Pranam Banteji. Swastik Patil sir is asking, Vandami Banteji, the only aim of human birth is to remove all the defilement and gain the right knowledge and wisdom. But still, there are so many chaos in defining ultimate and worldly aim of life.
The last sentence, can you repeat? There are so many.
There are chaos in defining ultimate and worldly aim of life.
Please repeat the entire question once.
Sure. The only aim of human birth is to remove all the defilements and gain the right knowledge and wisdom. But there are chaos in defining ultimate and worldly aim of life.
But there is some disturbance here. But
there are chaos in defining ultimate chaos.
Chaos. Okay.
In defining ultimate and worldly aim of life.
Yeah, that's why we are discussing. Now we should come out of all this nonsense, chaos of the world. If you are stuck in the nonsense of this world, the chaos of this world, then it will become a mess. You can't understand how this chaos has started. You can't fix all this chaos. Then you can't purify. One should take some daring decisions, some brave decisions. What is chaos and what leads to the mess in the life, and what is wisdom, what leads to come out of this chaos of the life and purify the mind, progress in this path. That basic distinction one should start. If you're carried away by this chaos, then that is ignorance only. One should sort out all this chaos in life. If something which is not possible, that's why many people they just ignore the chaos of the worldly life and they become renunciates. And some many smart people, wise people in the lay life also, they simply sort out as much as possible and slowly, steadily they progress in purifying the mind or coming out of these defilements. Someday, somehow, one should learn that art of balancing. One should strike a balance. Just completely carried away in the worldliness, then you can't cool all your defilements and you can't work on this path of purifying the mind. Or if you are completely giving up your worldly life and you don't have the courage to become a renunciate, then many renunciates also have seen they live in some doldrums, in some confusion, doing nothing, not enjoying the worldly things at the same time, not enjoying the spiritual things. Because of again out of ignorance only they can't balance. It's again the art of balancing the worldly pleasures and the spiritual pleasures. That art is not there, that wisdom is not there. Then even in the spiritual life also, even as a renunciates also, many people they lead their life like animals or more miserably than animals. So it's not renunciation or worldly life that will make you say to fix and work on these defilements and fix these defilements. It is your skillful approach to handle the worldly responsibilities. At the same time, working on the mind, whether you are a household person, whether you are a householder, or whether you are a renunciate. So one should go step by step. One should have proper, say, spiritual backup, the blessings and the say support of the guidance of a spiritual master, the proper techniques, spiritual techniques, uh, and the proper say inclination, proper interest, proper liking, by correctly knowing about the importance of all these things fall in place. Then, even as a layperson, even as a household, in the midst of all chaos, one can definitely slowly, step by step, he can pull all the departments and he can cut them, just like the simile that I explained now. Through intelligence, one can pull all the defilements. By moderation only it is possible. By balancing, by middle path only it is possible. Early levels, how much time, how much I should work on that much I work. In meditation, in spiritual, how much time I can work. So to that extent, let me work on my mind and pull these departments. And through meditation, I let me destroy bit by bit. In overnight, one can't become an arahant. So many people, lay people, just listening some discourses or just attending one 10 days program or one 7 days program, they think that they got everything. It's like an ocean. People just attending one or two programs. They think that they know everything about spirituality. They're the most stupid people in the world. Understanding the mind and the different dimensions, different phenomena, different faculties, different angles, different ways and means of knowing and developing the mind. It's immense. It is so many angles, so many dimensions are there in understanding the mind. Many people, they, because of this stupidity only, they become dogmatic. They stick on to one thing and they think that by practicing this, I will be liberated. They practice that particular only one aspect for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and only their ego will bloat. Their purification will not increase. So what one has to, one should have patience, one should have humbleness, one should have open mind, One should have that experimenting mind, and one should thoroughly know that this is a very, very authoritative path and long journey. It's a very, very long journey. Let me go with humbleness, with complete surrendering to this, but not losing my inner joy. That kind of wisdom and humbleness, if a person combines, then his journey will definitely become successful. But one point I will tell you, don't expect the results uh, as early as possible. I should get it. That again becomes a defilement. That pressurizing yourself to get results quickly, that again becomes a defilement. Again becomes a delusion. One should focus on the path, focus on the causes and conditions. There only one should derive happiness. And one should have the right association. And one should get that strength and blessings from the right association, the guidance and support from the right association. So all these factors will make the journey more fascinating, more confidence you will develop, and then the chaos of the world will slowly, it will melt, and the progress in this path becomes more and more, say, firm or more authoritative. In that way, somehow you should strike the balance with all these supporting factors. Okay, we'll conclude.
There is one last question from Nagananda sir. Vannami Banteji, the Himalayan Arhant could have himself answered the question of king. What was the need for Nagasena?
No, see, the Arhants having knowledge, having liberation, that is one thing. But as I was telling you in the beginning of the discourse itself, uh, like say, like Samma Sambuddhas, those Samma Sambuddhas are also Arhants, or the Himalayan monk is also an Arhant. Samma Sambuddhas, they can answer in such a way that the listener or the questioner, he can correctly understand his temperaments, his abilities, uh, his say his inclinations, mental dispositions. Can understand the mental dispositions of the listener, and accordingly they can answer. The Samma Sambuddha. That's why they are the universal teachers, like our Gautama Buddha. So having the knowledge of enlightenment, that is same for both Arhants and the Samma Sambuddhas or the teacher monks or teacher Arhants. But the way they can convince the listener, the way they can change, transform the listener, the listener can get the correct answers, the exact answers that they're looking for. That is possible with this supreme knowledge of by looking at the minds of the people also, how to answer. That kind of supreme knowledge the Samma Sambuddhas have. So teaching is altogether a different ball game. Purifying the mind and liberating the mind is definitely, it supports one's teaching abilities. But again, it requires some more dimensions also. Right? One should be in a position to look into others' temperaments, others' dispositions. Accordingly, one should answer. So that comes under the domain of course, the great teachers. So in that aspect, this Nagasena was versatile. He was expert. That is the reason why many monks went to Tawatimsa and they requested this Nagasena when he was a divine being in the Tawatimsa, in the divine world. Because they knew that he has that ability, he has that faculty of knowing other people's minds, and especially the minds of such people like Milinda. For such people's mind, they could able to read, they could able to answer accordingly. So they requested him to come to this human world and take the birth and answer this King Milinda. So Venerable Sariputta, you might have heard of his name, such a wise man, was greatest teacher also. But once he could not read the mind of one of his disciples, he gave one wrong meditation object to him. He gave one asubha object to one goldsmith, thinking that goldsmith, his mind is completely obsessed with beauty. Let me give the object of ugliness, loathsomeness object, asubha. Always his mind is full of subha, beauty. I will give an object of asubha so that he will comprehend the truth and he will become an arhat. But it didn't work. Didn't work in that case. Then he had to bring him to Samma Sambuddha, Gautama Buddha. And Gautama Buddha could see his mental predisposition. And that will not work in the case of this goldsmith. The exactly opposite at the time as a blow. It was like a blow for his mind. So then he gave anicca, asubha and anicca. And beauty, how it is first changes into anicca and then then asubha. So that order he could find out Buddha and he could feel the meditation of anicca. He created one beautiful golden flower and how it becomes, how it gets withered away, how it is impermanent and how it leads to ugliness. First he gave the object of anicca to this goldsmith and then Subha. So within one day, within a few hours, he became Arahant. So Sariputta was next to Buddha only in wisdom. There was Sariputta. So in that way, teaching is altogether a different ball game. And of course, I don't say that only Samma Sambuddhas can teach, even Nagasena. We don't know whether the Samma Sambuddha, whether he has become Arahant. Some people, though they're Arahants, they have that special skill, or even they're not Arahants, just Aryas, or just very skillful teachers. They can answer to the queries of some people. That is very much possible. So because of that reason, the ability to teach, that differentiated Nagasena from other monks, from other even Arahant monks. That is the reason why he was requested to answer Milinda's questions rather than other venerable monks, though they are Arahants. Okay, that's it.
Ji Bante ji, all questions are done.
All questions are over.
Yes, Bante ji, all questions are over.
Okay, so we'll conclude with one chant. नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सा भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वबुद्धानुभावेन सर्वधर्मानुभावेन सर्वसङ्गानुभावेन सदा स्वस्ति भवन्तु ते सुखी भवेयं निद्रुको अहं निच्चा अहं विया दाचा मे सुखी हन्तु मज्जता तवेदिनो मामि गम्मन्ते धम्मे सत्तहोन्तु सुखी सदा ततो परञ्चारज्येषु चक्रवालेषु चिन्तनो साधु साधु सुखी हन्तु. May all of you be happy. May all beings also be happy.